Welcome to another video, and today I'll be looking through the Singapore versus USA. It's a mixed team semi-final, so I assume this is like a duo team of men and lady, so a male and female duo competition, and this is also from the recent 2021 IBF World Championships in Dubai, and I believe IBF stands for International Bowling Federation. So this particular video comes from Strike Cloud Bowling, which is, I believe, a online streaming service for bowling matches. So very similar to, I believe, Flow Bowling as well, right? Because Flow Bowling only does streaming matches for USA, and I think Strike Cloud probably does for international tournaments. Okay, so as a disclaimer, I've not seen this match before. I wanted to keep myself like fresh. I never don't have any preset opinion from watching this match. First time I'm watching it along with you guys, and let's see. So first off, we have our Singapore duo. So this is Charihan, if I'm not
way, and they open up the
wrong.
bowling tonight in this second
Wait,
semi-final.
is it a duo or quartet?
Matt Cannizzaro with a fabulous shot there, striking with the first.
No, that's not Matt Cannizzaro. This looks like okay. So this team event looks like 2 guys and 2 ladies. So as you can see, we have Rehan and I don't know his name. We have Sherry Tan, and that is Shayna Ng, if I'm not wrong.
So far in these championships has always been a good.
Okay, nice strike. So again, another disadvantage of this this format, this television. How the cameras are placed for this finals. It is very difficult to see what lines our athletes are playing, our bowlers are playing. We can only see like the ball reaction and so on. There's some pretty nice close-up of the pin reaction, but because we can't see the lines they're playing, so that is something of a disadvantage. So we have Jacob Butler from the USA. I believe that's Chris Prater? Chris, I forgot his last name. And
two solid teams here. World renowned, really.
I can't see the other 2 ladies from the USA. So Jacob Butler, very unorthodox and very famous left-handed player who uses urethane ball just like Jesper Svensson, and is very famous for using the purple hammer. So okay, so can I get a close-up of Jacob Butler? So Jacob Butler's style is something that, as a coach, we don't usually recommend because he has a very unorthodox style. I believe he went through coaching as well, but he has developed this very unique style, which works for him because he's been bowling for a long time. I think since his youth bowling days. And let's take a look at some of his basics, right? So basics-wise, he is a bigger guy. That means you can see that he's not slim. It's not slim like some of our Singapore players. But so definitely with body shape and size, we have to take that into account when you bowl as well. That means your body form might be different from like a big guy might have a different body shape. A different bowling form compared to a slimmer guy. But some of the fundamentals we hope should stay the same, like because they are important for balance. So his trailing leg isn't really crossed behind the body. It's actually isn't crossed across from the body. So the ideal trailing leg we would usually like to see for a bowler, it's something like this. So cross and cross this way, right? So which means it is more to the right hand side of Jacob's body because Jacob is a left-hander. So it's more to the right hand side of the body so that we can balance all the motion. That means the motion of the downswing as well as the follow through that's going on your bowling side in this case, which is the left hand side. So his trailing leg position is not ideal, but it is still flexed. It is still relaxed. It kicks up in the air generally because when you see a bowler with a trailing leg that kicks up, it is because during their swing, right, their downswing and their release, they apply a lot of like a more violent action on their release. So they get this flicking action or a strong upward follow through. Then they will need to kick up their trailing leg in order to try and counterbalance that force that's been generated in their bowling swing. So there's that. With knee bend also isn't ideal. But then again, if for bigger guys, right, for guys and gals who are a little bit on the heavier side, it is more difficult for them to have a very good knee bend. That's because due to their weight, they put a lot of strain on their joints, because the heavier you are, obviously the more load you place on your joints, because gravity. So due to gravity and the load placed on their joints, you'll see that most of them actually will struggle from knee issues. They will struggle from ankle issues. They struggle. Knee issues are especially common among the bigger bowlers because of the weight. I've coached one of my students, which is just in secondary school, but he's really suffering from like back as well as I think hip and leg issues because of his weight. So it's definitely an issue for the bigger size bowlers. So generally, you see bigger bowlers, they tend to have less knee bend because they want to put less strain on their knee joint. So, and if they find that if they bend their knee a lot, that tends to hurt because they're putting too much strain there, and they tend to damage some of the ligaments and the muscles there. So generally, bigger bowlers, you can see that they might have a little bit less knee bend. Okay, other than that, other things to comment about his style, he's very unorthodox follow through. He follows through across his body, which is also something we don't really recommend for as coaches, because what we would instead, okay, so let's do this in red, right? Follow through across the body is something we do not recommend. What we usually will recommend instead is you follow through upwards. Let's see if I can do follow through upwards in front. That means in front of your face rather than across your face. So that means follow through, once you release the ball, you follow through upwards in front of your face, because generally it keeps your follow through in line with your target, makes everything easier to direct your ball. That means you want to direct your ball towards the target, right? So obviously if your swing is on the same direction as your target, it makes that kind of direction a lot easier. So why bowlers tend to go across? Usually it depends on their release. So I'm not 100% sure, but personally I believe it might be for one, generally bowlers who have a little bit of a late release. So when they release their ball, that means they release their ball in front of their body. So once their thumb comes out and they release the ball in front of their body, in order to get that rotation, they want their ball to hook, right? They will tend to have a pull and follow through that's across their body to try and get the ball to rotate in this direction. So in this case, Jacob is trying to get his ball to rotate this direction. So he pulls, once he releases here, he pulls his follow through across to try and get this rotation that I indicate here. So generally, I believe that's due to a later release. So this kind of release, generally, it creates a lot more side rotation, in my opinion, because they are releasing it later, and the axis tilt, okay, I'm not so sure about the axis tilt, but generally the axis rotation should be more sideways than forward rolling. So quite unorthodox, and that is also one of the reasons why Jacob likes to use urethane balls per se. Because when you have a ball that has so much side rotation, if you're using a reactive ball, it tends to snap a lot towards the backhand because your ball is spinning sideways, right? So imagine a ball spinning sideways. Once it hit the dry on our modern lane surfaces, which are very clean on the backhand, synthetic lanes. Once you hit there with a reactive ball, because of the high friction of the reactive ball, your ball goes very snappy, goes sideways. So for a bowler with a lot of side rotation like Jacob, if he uses reactive balls, he might see a lot of splits. Like his ball will go into a very sharp angle per se. And that might be one of the reasons why he prefers urethane balls, because urethane balls will give a generally not as sharp entry angle. Your ball reaction and your ball transition towards at the breakpoint area will be smoother, so you have a more rounded transition. And that is one of his rotation. His high amount of side rotation could be why he prefers urethane ball. Okay, anything else? That's almost about it. The last factor is obviously his balance arm. Not ideal. That means if I use red to indicate his balance arm is not really straight or parallel to the floor. Generally, we would hope bowlers, you see, would have a very straight balance arm. That means that's parallel to the floor. If you looked at my videos of South Korea versus Singapore, you see that all of the men's team, they all have very good balance arm positioning. That means all their balance arms are all perfectly parallel to the floor, even though all their bowling styles are different and all their body shapes are different. So regardless of body shape, you can still do this. Okay, that's about it. Let's
On that
continue
top,
the
the Sweden
match.
team.
Now, last night I was talking to your commissioner, Tom Clark, about the action of your bowler here. Remind me of
So I also like to add that even though as a coach we don't really like Jacob's physical style, right? It doesn't mean that he's not a good bowler. So obviously he's one of the best bowlers in the world. So even though your physical game might not be perfect, like there's some physical deficiencies in a game, a person can still be a very top bowler, can still be a top bowler, can still win world championships, can still win PBA titles and so on. Just that we feel that as a coach, if your body form is not perfect, you might have a rougher time getting there. Like your full potential might not be realized because you're not using all the physical gifts that's been given to your body. So yeah, so it's more difficult to be consistent, it's more difficult to be accurate, and definitely it's more difficult to be versatile, like to have to be able to play different angles on the lane and so on. If you have a very unorthodox style that means you can only, so you might be a one trick bowler or one trick pony, so to say. Like you can only play certain lanes, certain styles, certain balls, or certain angles. But once you are required to switch up the angle, you might find it difficult to play or difficult to be consistent in that kind of angle or style.
Take on that talented Sweden team.
Now, last night I was talking to your commissioner, Tom Clark, about the action of your bowler here. Remind me of the style that he uses, because apparently it's very, very different from not the normal bowling action that you would see.
Yeah, he's double jointed. So that
Okay,
allows
nice strike there. So we have our second bowler from Singapore. So in contrast to Jacob's style, we have a very cookie cutter style, right? Because obviously all our national bowlers have gone through
the style that he uses, because
a rigorous coaching process. Like all of our Singapore bowlers, if you're a foreigner, well, if you're watching this and you're not from Singapore, just to explain, all of our youth bowlers, they go through a rigorous training process. They go through our Center of Excellence Academies, which are private coaching training academies for young bowlers, and we train them on all the basic fundamentals and so on. And then as they get better, they go through a grading system at the end of every year, which grades their bowling ability, and they get promoted. So as they get promoted, they get higher in the level. We teach them more advanced stuff in terms of physical game, and then we teach them strategy and so on. So obviously we want them to have a very good base fundamental when they are starting out. So it depends on when they start, because we don't have a fixed age for Singapore bowlers to start. They can start as young as like 5 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. That's the youngest I've seen that start training under our Center of Excellence Academies. But they can be older as well. So we do also accept older bowlers who are in their 20s. That means they have previous bowling experience, so they have bowled on their own, and they have learned through other coaches, they learn through their own, and they just want to enter the COE program because they still have dreams of being a national bowler even at an older age. Of course, we do accept them, and we will just train them from there. So that's why you see most of our Singapore bowlers, especially our national bowlers, they have really great fundamentals because they have gone through all of this rigorous training when they were young. So we can take a look at his stance. Very, very nice ideal stance that we like to teach. That means his bowling shoulder is lower than his non-bowling shoulder. That means he's a right-hander, right, from this angle. So right bowling shoulder is lower. His body is tilted on the inside. That means you can see his his spine towards the center of head is tilted this way. So generally, this we will teach bowlers to adopt this kind of stance when they are trying to send their ball from the inside out. So when playing a deeper line, generally we teach them to position their spine this way, their upper body this way, so that the center of gravity of the ball, right, would rest on the outside of their palm. So when they rest on the outside of their palm, it lets them create more sideways rotation. So when they release, they will create a little bit more of a sideways rotation on the ball, which is something that Jacob does naturally a lot in his style because of his later release. So we teach them to position their upper body and hold their ball in this certain way for them to get more side rotation if they're playing a deeper part of the lane, deeper angles. Anything else? Let's play this. So if you something to know about his eyes. So we teach a 2-point targeting system. Generally, we teach our bowlers to aim at the break point that they are looking at, and also to look at the arrow that they want their ball to cross through. So from the arrow to the break point, then you connect these 2 points to form a straight line. So obviously this is the straight line will be from his eyes to his target. So he's looking, that means if I were to draw arrows here, first one, he's looking at his break point, which is further away, right? Something maybe around here. And then he's also looking at his arrow, which is closer. Then he will connect these 2 points to form a straight line to his right eye. And that's where he will try to direct and send his ball. So you will see that he looks at the further break point, and then he tilts his head down. So now he's looking at his target arrow, most likely, trying to get his ball to go through both the arrow and then along the line to the break point that he wants it to go. Okay, and
he's double jointed.
I think he hits his target because almost it gets a ring 10. So he seems to be playing a deeper line because his ball, right, seems to be going from like this way, and then it just hooks a little bit and then goes in the pocket like that. So it's, yeah. So that's why he is upper body positioning. That means it's the tilt of his upper body, that how it's slanted to the right side. It makes sense if he's playing a deeper line.
That allows the extra flexibility in his wrist to do some crazy things. And just his
so you can see when he releases
and just his wrist to do some.
Okay, let's mute this. So when he releases, because the way he positions his upper body and how he holds the ball, when he releases, it will tend to encourage the bowler, right, to spin up or to turn on the ball more. So as it turns up, it creates more side rotation, and because of the side rotation, you can expect your ball to like go in to hook, to have a bigger hook per se. So it comes back from a deeper part of the lane. Yeah, he's playing a relatively deep line. I think maybe close to 4th arrow, I think.
Actually, is much different.
Because I can't really see from
some of the other
this
players,
angle.
So, all of that put together is just the most unique style, as Tom had alluded to. And somehow
USA supporters there. Chris, I think this is Chris Prater, if I remember his family name correctly. Chris Prater. So Chris Prater has a really good standard orthodox style. He went through the Wichita State program, which is one of the top US colleges, because they won the most NCAA championships. So Chris Prater, really good, really smooth style. If we take a look at his back here, yep, you can see that he has a absolutely straight balance arm, parallel to the floor, really good. Then he has excellent knee bend here. If we look at his knee, so this angle is pretty difficult, but you can see that his knee is very good knee bend. He's very close to the floor. So why is it important to have a good knee bend? Because you want your bowling ball to be released as close to the floor as possible. Because so you see when he releases the bowling ball, it's just barely above the lane, right? It's only like a few centimeters above the lane. So the higher you drop your bowling ball, the more your bowling ball loses energy. So imagine if you're dropping a bowling ball from on top of the lane, like around here, compared to, maybe I use a different color. So imagine you're dropping a bowling ball from this height compared to the one in yellow. So your bowling ball drops a total of another ball height. So the higher a bowling ball drops, when it contacts the lane surface, the more it loses energy during the impact when it drops from a higher spot. So this is why we recommend the deep knee bend to get a bowling ball to release as close to the lane as possible, so that your bowling ball retains as much of its energy as possible. So to contradict, that means some people might say that having loft is actually good. That is actually good in the older days, because in the olden days when we were bowling on wooden lanes, a lot of these wooden lane surfaces, right, the front area is actually beat up. That means there are a lot of holes, small holes and splits and cracks in the wood, because so many bowling balls have landed on them and they've been bowled on for like many, like 20 years, 15 years and so on. So because of that, a lot of holes and cracks in the wood, if you were to drop your bowling ball on this area, it instantly loses a lot of energy because there's very high friction. So take note that this is for wooden lanes. So this is why when the older bowlers that are bowling on wooden lanes, they were actually encouraged to loft. They actually developed styles that had them loft their ball away from this area. So they wanted them to avoid the hit area. So while the older bowling styles or the strokers that we see in the old PBA days, They lifted their ball, they released their ball higher. They have still good knee bend, but generally their upper body was higher. They released their ball higher, and they lofted their ball. They wanted their ball to land beyond the head area to retain as much energy as possible. So obviously with modern lane surfaces, synthetic lane surfaces, we don't have this issue. So instead, we like the bowler to release as low as possible. Then Chris has a very good trailing leg. His trailing leg, very good knee bend and very good trailing leg. It will swing across to here once it finishes his release, but I can't see it in this angle. Then same thing, his bowling shoulder is much lower than his balance arm shoulder. Really good. So to have your bowling shoulder lowered has a few uses. Mainly is to get your right eye in line with your right shoulder, which is also in line with your bowling ball. So your bowling ball will be directly below your right eye, since your bowling shoulder is right underneath your right eye per se, which makes targeting and aiming a lot easier and it's more consistent. Anything other than that? Not too much. So Chris Prater has very good physical game.
Knock him down, knock him down.
Now looking at here.
Also playing a deeper line. Nice strike there.
Sharky Clarky as he...
So you can see, yeah, you can take a look at his physical form here as well. So nice trailing leg crossed over to the left side of his body because Chris is a right-hander. And his follow through, which is very different from, so you can see the direct contrast in styles from Jacob Buttrell to Chris Prater, right, on their finishing position. Then his follow through will be going, his follow through goes directly up in front of his head, up in front of his face here. Balance arm really straight, as mentioned. Knee bend is pretty good, pretty decent. He has more knee bend when he was going into the swing. But you can see that Chris is starting to gain weight as he gets older. So he's also probably facing the issue of putting extra strain on his knee joint. Because when he was younger, I think he was a little bit slimmer. So another issue with American food culture is that American food is typically very high in calories. And it is more difficult for the typical American to control their weight. So they will get obese. So more Americans tend to get obese. And we can't really blame them. It's because of their food culture. They've got so much advertising from McDonald's and like Hot Pockets and so on, which is all high calorie food. And it's very difficult for them to choose other alternatives, like healthier alternatives. So you can, Anthony Simonson is a good example. When he started, when he was 18, he was really slim. But like within a year, he blew up in size. He like doubled his size and probably close to double, maybe not double, but may added 50% to his body weight. Okay. Okay. So overall, Chris Prater, really good fundamentals, good finishing position.
He's known to his teammates. Is coming up.
Really solid finishing position, very stable. You can see the benefits of Chris' finishing position is that he's really stable at the foul line. It's like if an earthquake shook the bowling alley, Chris will probably still stay on balance in his finishing position. So Shenang probably doesn't need introduction. I think almost everybody knows Shenang at this point. She just won a singles title against our fellow Singaporean bowler Sherry Tan in these IBF World Championships. So Shayna has always been a power bowler since young. So it's always been this style of a lowered bowling shoulder, generating a lot of power and a lot of rotation upon release. So she goes underneath and deep underneath the ball during release, so provides a lot of lift, a lot of leverage. Yep. So very high ref rate. Shayna is probably one of the higher ref rate bowlers among the women, like among all the women bowlers in the world.
Definitely here. Now, if you like to be a little bit different in the way that you watch your bowling, and of course, you know, we've watched it on TV, we've watched it online, we've streamed it, we've watched it
There's
on
Singapore bowlers there. Oh, Kelly Kilwick. So Kelly Kilwick is in this team as well. Can we see anything from Kelly Kilwick's game here? Same fundamentals, right? Same fundamentals. Bowling shoulder lowered, then the non-bowling shoulder. In this case, Kelly Kilwick seems to be looking further down the line, probably looking at her break point. Then Kelly Kilwick is also a very great fundamentals, a very famous and very established female professional bowler.
Tube, all those other ways. However,
So she keeps her eye. So take note that all these top bowlers, they have really stable head. Most of them actually, at least, they have really stable head. That means their head doesn't really move from when they go into their approach during their slide to their finishing position. And what this does is it helps keep their eyes fixed on the target. So there's this very, very minimal head movement. Like the top bowlers who are very consistent in making their shots, hitting their shots, you will seldom see their head bob up and down during the approach to the finishing position. So like I mentioned, the benefit of this is that you want to do this so that your eyes stay fixed, locked onto your target. And if your target is stationary, because if you move your head, your target becomes a moving target rather than a stationary target. So it becomes a lot harder to hit a moving target as compared to a stationary one, right? So this one, you want to keep your target stationary by keeping your head stationary. So your head has to be in a level position throughout the approach, minimal movement, as little as possible, so that you can hit your target on a more consistent basis.
all those other ways. However, this year,
Yep. So even as she releases the shot here, even as she releases the shot, you see that Kelly's eyes never moves away from her target, right? Her eyes are simply, there's a lock-on target on her eyes, just locked on to her breakpoint target. So throughout her approach, throughout her swing, her backswing, her release, and her follow-through, her eyes stay locked on all the way.
But this year, we are doing it a little bit differently as well. You can watch it like this, but why not, if you have a mobile phone, a cell phone, use one of your app stores, Android or Apple, and download Strike.
So the announcers are promoting the Strike Cloud. It's a live streaming service, and can we see a little bit more of Kelly's finishing position? So Kelly has great fundamentals, excellent knee bend, trailing leg across on the left-hand side of her body because she's a right-handed bowler. In this case, while she's projecting her arm forward, her balance arm swings behind, but it's still acceptable. A lot of our bowlers will naturally do this because since the right shoulder needs to go forward, right, during the release, so as her right shoulder rotates forward, generally speaking, she swivels and pivots her upper body, so hence the left shoulder goes behind and the bowling shoulder, the balance arm shoulder goes behind as well. So that's during release. So obviously after the ball has been released, most of the time the balance arm will swing back into the level position right beside the body where it's parallel to the ground. Okay, anything else that is good? So a follow through is really good as well. You can see here that her follow through in front of her face, very similar to Chris Prater in front of face, which is good. Overall really good. And if you look at the way she positions her upper body, she pivots her upper body just like our Singapore male bowler there. She pivots her upper body to the right hand side of that means towards her bowling shoulder side. So this way, so why we as coaches we teach this as well, because it helps to create more space on your bowling side of your body. So when you have more space, your arm swing is less likely for your arm swing to hit your hips. You can see that Kelly's hips is way on the inside, right? Way on the inside, there's very little probability of her ball hitting her hips as well as her thighs. So the thighs and hips are positioned away from the downswing of the bowling ball. So it helps to clear the swing as well as gives the bowler more freedom to position to play different angles. Especially if you want to send the ball inside out, like you want to play a very deep angle. That means you want to play on, let's say, you want to play on this side, right? You want to play on this extreme, like Jason Belmonte, right? You want to play the extreme left-hand side of the lane and you want to send your ball like super deep into the like play a super deep line and get a very big hook, a big C hook. Typically, to do that, you need to direct your swing from the back of your body and outwards towards this area. So if your hips and your thighs are in the way, the bowler can't really do that because in your downswing, if your downswing is obstructed, your body will instead do this, right? You will curve the ball, you will curve your arm around your body instead of underneath the body. So when you curl your arm around your body, it's difficult to hit the target because now you're doing this swinging motion with your arm instead of having a straight swing. Okay, so anything else, Kelly? really good fundamentals, a good role model to learn from.
Cloud 360. That's Strikeout. STRIKE Cloud 360. It's free. And then you can see this whole tournament appear in virtual reality, but in real virtual reality.
Well,
you
virtual
can
reality.
actually use the whole process to view the game that you're watching with a 360-degree camera. You can change the camera angles.
360-degree camera. Wow, they're promoting really good stuff. So maybe give them a shout out. What did the commentator say?
Appear in virtual reality. Our IKE Cloud 360. Use
IKE
one of
Cloud.
your app stores, Android or Apple.
Android,
and
Apple.
Strike Cloud 360. That's Strike.
Okay, so the app is Strike Cloud 360. Okay, maybe I'll give it a try later as well. Okay, moving forward. So next is Sherry Tan.
You can actually use the whole process to view
I think nothing much to be said about Sherry Tan. I've probably reviewed her before. Pretty good fundamentals, but a little bit unorthodox. She's one of the bowlers who likes to kick up her trailing leg instead of keeping on the ground. Typically because she tries to generate a little bit more lift during release. Because for Sherry's style, if you look at her finishing position, right, she's not a bowler that typically you would relate with high rev rates, because her style is a little bit, there's not so much tilt in her shoulder. That means her bowling shoulder is not as low as like maybe Shayna Ng or some of our male bowlers. So her bowling shoulder is pretty. It's I mean, it's not level. Obviously, we don't recommend level. It's still lower, but it's not as low. So she doesn't get as much underneath the ball. So since she doesn't get as underneath the ball, she cannot lift the ball as much. She doesn't provide as much lift. Her ball rotation usually suffers. So I think what Sherry is trying to do to combat this is have a little bit faster release. So a faster and a quicker release to help to generate the ref rate. So in order to have a faster release, she has this big flick on her left arm, right? So she has the flick, a quick release and a follow through. So she has this more violent follow through. As she does this violent follow through, she needs to raise up her non-bowling leg, her balance leg, which is her left leg, in order to try and counterbalance this force generated on the left hand side of her body. But same solid fundamentals. She has a lot of space here. You can see that. Okay, maybe position here. So she tilts her body towards the bowling side. She tilts her body towards this side. And this way, you generate a lot of space for the ball to swing underneath the body and underneath your bowling shoulder. So you can see that all top bowlers here, they have very, of course their styles are all different, but they all have very similar characteristics to their finishing position and their physical game. Singapore flag is upside down there. And this is, I forgot her name. I forgot her name. Missy Parkin. Yeah, thanks to the announcer. So yes, if 3 strikes. Missy Parkin also a pretty experienced bowler. Can we take a look at the fundamentals here? I can't really see it, so I can't comment too much. Unless we get a different angle. Yep, so you can see physical game here. So certain things are quite different from Kelly Kulik. Balance arm raised to way higher up. Something we don't really recommend. We recommend the bowlers to keep it level. But certain good things about her bowlings, about her finishing position, are same as all our other top bowlers. Creates a lot of space here. Shoulders tilted towards the bowling shoulder side. Bowling shoulder lower than the non-bowling shoulder. The follow through as well. Her follow through is straight up in front of her face. So it's in front of her face rather than across her face, right? Then obviously she has excellent knee bend. So Missy Parkin stays in shape pretty well. I believe they do a lot of jogging, cross-country running as well to try and keep their legs strong and try to keep their weight low as well, their body weight low. Use that excess weight. So excellent knee bend. Trailing leg is a bit of the stiff side. The trailing leg is super straight. The position of trailing leg is great. It's across the non-bowling side of her body. But usually we will recommend the bowler to have a little bit more relaxed trailing leg. Like to have a little bit more knee bend in their trailing leg just to relax the leg a little bit more. In her case, you can see that Mr. Parkin's trailing leg is a little bit more on the stiffer end. It's very straight, very stiff. But I mean, it works for her, so it doesn't matter. But overall, still pretty solid physical game, right? Her ball does a lot more sideways rotation rather than forward roll. It's probably due to how she releases the ball and how underneath her ball she can get her fingers around it. So she probably doesn't get her fingers under the ball a lot. So she tends to spin the ball more. Okay, but back to the match. This USA is in the lead. Singapore just has a single nice spare, but all 3 strikes. Still pretty close, but USA is way in the lead. Oh, very weak 10 there. Well, so we go back to Rehan, right? So Rehan gets a strike.
Strikes all the way. Now, of course, after these games, we're going to be moving on to the finals of tonight, the team finals. We'll be going on to the women's final match, Malaysia versus USA. Again, the men's final, Singapore versus Korea. And then finally, to bring up the close and the curtain of the IBF World Championships here in Dubai.
There's a Chris Prater supporter. Jacob Buttroff again. Really an underdog style, but effective, still a top bowler. Able to play his line to his... so he specializes in playing a certain area of the lane. And with urethane balls, with his favorite purple hammer urethane balls, to get the ball reaction that he wants. And because of the way that he's able to... So one of the key secrets to Jacob's success is the amount of power he can generate. Because Jacob, if... I don't... Can we get a shot of when he releases the shot? Yeah, I can't really see that. Maybe here. One of his key components of Jacob's success is actually the power and the rev rate that he generates on the ball. So he's able to do this because Jacob has a double jointed palm, I believe, as well as a double jointed thumb joint. So in that way, he has the so-called the gift of being able to wrap his bowling arm underneath the ball. He's able to cup the bowling ball a lot more. As you can see here, his like you cannot see his hand from here, right? Well, typically for a one-handed bowler, because of the position of their thumb, they cannot go as underneath the ball as Jacob can. So literally Jacob's hand here during the downswing is entirely underneath the bowling ball, very similar to a two-hander as compared to a normal one-hander. Because he's able to get so deep underneath the ball, when he lifts up on the ball, he creates a lot of rotation on the ball and it gives him a lot of rev rate. So the rev rate is a key to his power and his success as well. So this is not something that ordinary one-handers can do, because most of us don't have that flexibility in our palm joint as well as the thumb joint.
Two teams.
Yeah, you can see he gets a lot. That's a lot of rotation on that purple hammer there. And when he hits the pins just fly, even though this is a pure urethane ball. Yep, look at the pin action. So this is only possible if you can generate that much rev rate.
How often are you playing? Oh, look at that. There you go, a little kiss to the pins there. How often are you
Okay, 5 strikes for USA. Okay, Singapore, our second bowler striking as well. So we're keeping close to Team USA, but USA still has the lead.
It's their job. For many of them, especially on the ladies' side, you'll see just keeping the legs strong for the foundation at the foul line. Danielle, Kelly, a lot of time going to the gym, focused on nutrition, a lot of games on the lane.
This Prater is up, trying to maintain the strike fest for Team USA. Okay, and they keep striking. So I don't know about the oil condition. I don't know how easy or how difficult this is. But it seems like we're seeing a lot of strikes from a lot of the finals competitions here, especially on this TV pair.
And I said, does that really work? And she said, you have a go. So I put this machine on.
Shayna is, I believe, our third bowler, while Sherry is anchor bowler, the fourth bowler from Singapore.
So the technology is not only here in the bowling, but also looking
Oh, there's been 10. So hope she spares this, but it puts us really behind Team USA. So Team USA has a pretty big lead. Probably 2-game match if I'm not wrong. So Team USA look poised to win game 1.
We've got, of course, Malaysia, Singapore. Lots of support for Team USA there. This lady's got her camera around the wrong way round. She's actually filming herself, the one on the left there in the middle. I think, turn your camera around.
She's using a back camera, man.
She wants to watch her reaction to some of these amazing shots here.
Ooh, she almost missed that spare. Almost went into the right gutter.
Lots of the world's finest bowlers, and as I said, we've chatted over the last.
So if USA keeps striking and there's no open frames, Team USA should win this game 1. That's the big lead that they have.
East versus West isn't always there. We kind of see maybe Europeans playing the Americans and such like. But it is a chance now for...
Okay, this we can learn from this as well. So what Kelly Kulik does is that even though she's going through a pre-shot routine, right? So she feels something is wrong, she turns back. And when you turn back, it is recommended that you restart everything. That means you put down your bowling ball and you go through to your entire pre-shot routine again. So a lot of us, like beginner or even intermediate bowlers, some even at a high level, because we don't have as much tournament experience, we don't understand the importance of resetting our pre-shot routine. So like when you feel something is not right, maybe like you feel like your thumb is a little bit sweaty, a bit of perspiration of your thumb, or maybe in your fingers, or the way that you took up your stance, you don't feel like the weight distribution is correct. How you hold your ball, maybe the thumb grip is not as good, or the finger doesn't feel as tight. But you still carry on and think that, yeah, it's fine. I'll just look at my target, I'll just pull. And you hope that everything goes well. But instead, then your shot misses your target, you get a split, or you get a non-strike like a pin 10, and that puts you back in a difficult match, right? Puts you in a difficult spot. So a lot of these top players, they have the experience that once they feel something is not right, they just put down their ball because there's more than enough time for them to redo their entire pre-shot routine and take a very good shot. Okay, so resetting. So resetting is pretty important.
Singapore, Malaysia.
Okay, in this case, Kelly doesn't really put down a bowling ball, but for us, we recommend putting down the bowling ball and picking it up and starting your entire pre-shot routine. So make sure everything feels right before you go for that important shot. See if this turns out to be a good one. Very good. She gets a strike from there. It's a bit of a slower ball speed, I think, compared to her first shot. But she still gets it on target. Superman, they refer to Chris Prater because he looks like the Lewis Clark from the old Superman shows.
Looking to add 2 more tonight here.
Yeah, indeed.
In Dubai.
There's our overview shot. There's the scores that Matt's going to have a quick look at for in a minute. But this is the Sports, Fitness and Wellbeing Hub here at Dubai's home of Expo 2020 in the desert.
Fourth bowler will be Sherry Tan here.
On the action is white hot. More strikes again. You know, earlier on tonight,
so Sherry Tan is very efficient bowler, very accurate, very precise. I heard from one of my coaching colleagues that Sherry Tan is one of the hardest workers in the national team. During his time spent in the national team, he says Sherry practices really hard, has a really strong mentality, really wants to win, and she dedicates a lot of her time to practice. Like she hits her spares like 10,000 spares, something along the line, I don't know, a week or something.
Well, okay, Matt, I have been talking far too much, and you are the man. You brought your official
so Team USA is on track to get a perfect 300 game for their first Bakers game. So they might get 300 for this because it's been all strikes for Team USA. So they just needed 4 more strikes in the 9 and 10 frame to get a perfect game.
Hey, hang on a minute. I've just realised, you know, earlier on we were talking about Korea possibly making, for the first time under the IBF banner, the first ever 300 perfect score, and they missed it by 1. Could we be seeing...
So spoilers there, South Korea hit at 299. Okay, 300 is another strike. There's nothing much Team Singapore can do right now, so we have to take a loss, take an L for game 1. But we want to finish it well, so you still want to finish it well because there's still game 2 based on... Is there a game 2? Maybe. I'm not too sure, because it's the first time I'm watching this. I'm not super sure on the tournament format.
Of course, is highlighting the team element.
Hey, another strike for Jacob. So that's the 9th strike on
On
frame 9. And I believe Chris Prater has the honor of trying to get 3 strikes for a perfect game for USA.
Look at that.
And yeah, they're
Who's
happy.
the daddy? So look at that. Strike, 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 strike.
In this
strike,
case, I
all
believe
the way
Singapore
through.
usually goes first to try and make way for so that the
We
last
were
bowler
on
from Team
the
USA
edge
is
of the
uninterrupted
precipice for a perfect 300 score.
for
That is the best you can get in bowling.
final
We
shots.
are now
Wait, Rehan is
in the
9th
mixed team
frame, right?
event,
I think Rehan bowls out on 9th frame.
facing the prospect of the first time ever under the IBF World Championships jurisdiction, a 300 perfect score being shot outside.
The whole audience gets quiet. Okay. So I think Rehan is bowling
Just
our
before we see
10th
the,
frame.
Singapore team
So the
take
9
their
and 10th frame
shot,
are
of
bowled by
course,
our anchor,
give you an
by
oversight.
our first
The
bowlers. That's
evening
quite
so far, and
unique.
we've had a great, and
That's
of
the
course
first
the
time
last 4 days since
that-
the 6th of November. 250 athletes from 35 countries have been vying for these exact places that you're watching tonight. They have been fighting it out between countries from all over the world to become the world's best. The IBF World Championships has seen the singles, the doubles, the trios, and now the mixed teams for the first time.
Wait, let me try and... I'm just
For the
curious
first
about the
time.
format. So I think there's only one game, so Team USA has already won. First bowler bowls first as well as 5th frame. And the 9th frame. Oh, so they bowl both the... So the first bowler bowls the 1st frame, 5th frame, as well as the 9th and 10th frame. That's quite interesting.
And I'm going to be quiet for a little bit, Matt, because maybe we need a little bit of hush, because we're on the verge of something special in a moment. Just as
Okay, so Team Singapore just wants to finish this game and get out of the way for Team USA to try and clock their perfect game.
By my
Just
count,
doesn't
we
want to
saw
disturb them.
14 300 games this week in the various events, singles, doubles, Baker trios, Baker team, all of it.
Yeah, so I
which
believe
is a
it's
very
Jacob
high
that
number,
goes for the 10th
for the
frame.
World Championships,
Based
very
on what I see that
high
Rehan
score,
goes for
44-foot
both the
oil
9th
pattern.
and 10th frame.
And now we're seeing if we can add one more here.
Because Jacob is the first bowler
Red,
for
white,
Team
and
USA.
blue.
Yep, yeah, I'm right. Oh, doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. He looks off balance when he released that shot. Okay, so he leaves a ring 10. Sorry, yeah, that's a ringing 10.
Earlier and cave in the big 4. That one, he got it left. Barely made it back to the head pin, but just a little too thin to knock him down. And
correct. So even the commentator mentioned that he probably missed his target, sent it out of the line. Because during his release, you can see that it didn't look. Yeah, you can take a look at his the previous shot.
4-foot oil pattern, and now we're seeing if we can add one.
the red, one, and blue.
So when he released, yeah, you can see that his release is kind of different, right? Previously, when we look at the first shot, when we analyze the first shot, his release was across, his follow through was across his body instead of what he's doing now, which is going in front of his face. So his follow through is different. So it probably indicates that he probably missed his target, or his release timing could have been different, which resulted in a different follow through. So yeah.
Here we go.
And his follow through also isn't as high, because typically in the first frame when we were watching it, his follow through was going this way, right? Across his head, across and above his head. But now when you analyze this shot, when you look at his follow through, his follow through went this way, right? Nope. That's a little bit. Nope. Oh, no, it's too fast. So instead, his follow through went this way and only up to his eye level. It doesn't go above his head. So that means his follow through is restricted by something, probably his shoulder positioning or something like that. But it could be that his swing direction isn't going where he wanted. So he probably missed his target.
Here we go.
That's why he didn't like it. It fell. He shot immediately after release. Still hit the pocket. Still hit the pocket though. So still managed to get it to the pocket.
10-pin won't go for Jacob Butcher. That one, we saw him go high earlier and cave in the big 4. That one, he got it left. Barely made it back to the head pin, but just a little too thin to knock him down. And Team USA.
Did you see that little expression? He just went, wow. You know, that looked like it was almost stuck down, that 10 pin. It didn't want to go. Let's clear it up.
Okay, so this was the mixed teams semi-final between Singapore and USA, and USA wins this, and the USA will move on to the finals, which I don't know who is waiting for them in the finals. Maybe, oh, maybe we should review the other semi-final match if it becomes available. Okay, so USA wins with a score of, do we get to see the final score?
Guys, that is, you know, that's what it's all about. Sweden will be now taking on Team USA as we just go for the final few.
Okay. So it just announced that Sweden will be the USA's opponent in the final. So USA wins 278 to 246. Pretty convincing scoreline. You can say that it was quite a thrashing. They did well. So both teams did well. They tried their best, and we'll see you next time.